Fuck. All right, we're rolling.
Planet B
presents
Cult and Culture Podcast.
Along with the very bad Mexicans, there's another very bad group, and I'm not talking about MS-13. I'm talking about the group InDecline, where they're doing unbelievably horrible things around the country. And they're doing it against me, and they're filled with deplorables. And quite frankly, I don't know this, but somebody told me, they're very angry homosexuals.
Hello. Welcome to episode 49 of the Cult and Culture Podcast. I'm Justin Pearson.
And I'm Luke Henshaw, and your God is racist.
This episode features some people that we can't name, part of InDecline, which is like a larger anonymous art collective, activist collective.
Yeah, it goes deep.
Man, there's so many levels of stuff. It's all, basically politically and socially motivated, but they use humor and wit, and I think those are very, very important ways to articulate your thoughts. Unlike having a shirt that just says your God is racist. I think that just their whole repurposing billboards is something that I constantly look at billboards and I'm like, oh man, you could change those words or put lasers out of that kid's eyes or whatever, like spray paint it.
And they do it.
And they do, and they really, really do it. And it's such a rad art collective. And I'm psyched that they asked to be on our podcast because I didn't even know how to wrap my head around getting anonymous people on this podcast. That in itself is pretty bizarre. So, when we dive into this, you'll see what we're talking about. But hiding, an individual's voice and appearance is pretty wild. So, InDecline, they've been doing like a lot of wild stuff. I think we kind of got linked up with them through one of our previous guests, Spencer Little, who's collaborated with them as well. And I guess I would just say dive into all of InDecline stuff. There's a short film that they have on their Vimeo account online.
They have a new book.
There's an awesome book too. They also have like some merch and stuff, so it does help support them. I don't know. Just check them out. Hopefully this podcast grabs you in some way because we're in a pretty jarring world, and it's about to get even more bizarre. So let's see what happens. But with that being said, this episode specifically is sponsored by our friends from Peace Pies, which is like a local vegan raw restaurant in San Diego. So if you are in town for whatever reason, if you live here, if you're traveling through with your band or whatever, your family, check out Peace Pies. It's over in Ocean Beach, Point Loma area. And they have like tons of rad stuff, like really wild cakes and like kind of Twix kind of bars, and there's tons of stuff, but they're really good raw vegan desserts, and they also have like savory food as well. And
if you're into cooking, they have a recipe book.
And the owner's name is JP, which is pretty rad.
What?
But it's cool people, like-minded, and on the I don't know, just if you want to get fit for the revolution, you better quit eating all the KFC like Trump does. I'm not shaming people for eating garbage, but you could eat something pretty rad. Peace Pies is awesome. I love going there.
Like nut milk.
It's a great place to support cool people. And anyhow, let's dive into this. We're gonna have some snacks, and we'll see you on the other side.
I'm a representative of the activist collective InDecline.
I guess I'm a past representative of that nature from sometime years back.
This is our legal representation.
I'm just here to watch.
The emotional support animal.
Yes, correct.
That was a good introduction. Okay, so this is like a insane situation to I don't even like like InDecline itself as like an entity is such a thing. I'm not even sure how to approach it. Like, and if this is a wrong analogy, then please correct me. But like, I looked at it as sort of, and I think maybe I am not wrong here because I've seen other people say it's similar to Anonymous, like, but like art based, I suppose.
Yeah, I'd say it's with art, activism, a little bit of like troublemaking in there.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't even know. Okay, let's just start here because I think like with Anonymous and also maybe with you, and this might be a good way to kick it off is like I wonder, like, I'm always thinking like, well, why isn't let's use Anonymous as an example. Why aren't they just taking shit down? Like, why aren't they pulling off like Mr. Robot level stuff? And so I also have like artist friends or activist friends who are like feel maybe disenfranchised for whatever reasons, and I'm like, why the fuck aren't they doing the things? So let me just ask that question: why the fuck aren't you guys doing the things? Like in a nice way. Like, sure, let's do it. Like, let's.
I think a big part of it has to do with the rate at which the goal with activism and a lot of things is to stay in front of, right, and not trail behind. But as we've seen in our 20-plus year history, and we've seen it, I mean, with skateboarding and graffiti and a lot of other things that have been deemed illegal, you have to stay in front of. And they're going to figure out all the different ways to, kind of like impede your forward movement. And you have to know when to pace yourself. And there's this urge, especially when you're younger, to go all in all the time. And in 2016, we went all in for a number of years and flew way too close to the sun and figured out what happens when you do that. And so
sorry, can you tell me what
you end up sitting across from federal agents. You end up having very difficult times at the airport. You end up not feeling like your private life is private anymore. It's the same story, and this has as much to do with the person in office as it does with social media and all the other things that come along with it. So all of this is a long game. You want to stay in it for as long as you can. You don't want to and someone like Anonymous or anyone else that functions on that level isn't trying to burn out super fast. And so sometimes you got to go quiet for a little while, or in our case, this is kind of what has made InDecline so successful, if that's the right word, is we have so many different avenues that we pivot to. So we started off as sort of like graffiti based, and we've gone into theater, we've gone into guerrilla installations. Obviously the billboard liberation thing has been a part of our history since day one. There's so many different little ways that we get our message out there.
Do you mean theater like the Yes Men?
Well, yeah, we've done live sort of performance art, but we've also written traditional plays. We've done, we wrote a play during the pandemic, and then we've done this kind of Orson Welles updated adaptation of War of the Worlds. I mean, we've really tried to make it so that if we're feeling heat from one thing, say we've done too many billboards in a fiscal year, it's just all right, well, maybe we need to stay off those for a little while and go do this documentary, or let's just do some music videos for a while. If you're constantly doing one thing, they're just going to end up catching up.
They'll figure it out.
And that's been the blessing and the curse with InDecline, is it's difficult to sit down and explain it to people sometimes. But, as we grew up and we looked at certain activist groups, it was really easy for us to peg the ones that just seemed like they were stagnating, not just taking risks, but also stagnating so quickly, where it's okay, well, they're getting a lot of donations, they're playing by the rules and they're doing these things. There's a lot of eyeballs on them, but it just looks so boring. And for us, it was always well, we'll get the money we can get. We're resourceful. We grew up, doing low budget films and all these things. So we'll make it work, but we would rather do everything, we'd rather operate in places that we're not, supposed to be operating. So we're 20 plus years into our little career doing this. We're finally being admitted into these, art galleries after all these years. So now we're in this whole art phase. So anyway, to answer your question, I think, you have to sort of take the stance that you're not smarter than them. You're not more, we're not anonymous. And for all the little things that we do, I mean, I've sat next to friends while, federal agents have identified 1-inch scars on their hands as things that they saw in the graffiti. I mean, crazy shit.
Whoa.
People ordering merch on the off chance that it'll come with a fingerprint on the book you're selling,
Whoa.
So I mean, it goes deeper than you can ever imagine, and that's before you get into like the technological stuff.
Sure.
And I just call that like the terms and conditions that we always click on. So yeah, you got to stay careful, and you got to pace yourself and just operate.
It's like you slip if you think you're more clever than them.
Yeah, and a lot of times, I was just actually reading this article about a film that was made a long time ago, and it was shot at Disneyland, and there was obviously no permission. And Disneyland, rather than make it a big thing, they just kind of like let it live because they didn't want to draw more attention to it. And I remember working on the naked Trump statues that we did when Donald Trump, before he was elected, and a series of other like extremely high profile projects related to him in the first few years of his presidency. And for someone that like can't seem to help himself, they did a really good job of keeping InDecline out of his mouth, because we're nobody.
As soon as he says it, it's
over.
Wow.
It's game over. And so,
wait, game over for InDecline?
No, game over for him, because now he's made us into this like we're this martyr at this point. Like he's coming after us. We're this little innocuous activist group nobody's heard of.
So he never said it?
He never said it. And
how did he keep his mouth shut?
It's funny because Kathy Griffith had that like famous photo holding his head.
Yeah.
Of course, he went to war with her immediately. I mean, we played soccer with his head at the border down here in Tijuana.
Yeah.
Like, we've done some gnarly shit.
Yeah.
Golf course, hotels, like all his properties. And this was like front page of newspaper level shit.
Yeah.
And he just knew better. So, on one hand, it's like it provides you with, I guess, a little more motivation to keep pushing. But on the other hand, you're like, damn, what are the conversations that are happening behind the scenes? Because he woke up in the morning and saw.
Oh, dude, his little dick.
Yeah, his little dick, So.
So Disney good and Trump bad.
Right, exactly.
Disney bad, Trump worse.
Yeah, Trump horrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where do we? The fucking. It's open now. Like, let's do this. Like, what like we're fucked for the next 4 years again. Like, what?
Well, beyond the next 4 years. I mean, this is just going to be, and like anything else, we were all sort of waiting with bated breath in 2016 when he won to see like, okay, like what's going to actually happen. And we saw what happened. And we're not even in the 4 years Biden was in office. Like, we didn't really clean much up. It was just sort of like a break. It was just a little timeout. And so much has happened since then. I mean, with just wars and all kinds of other horrible shit. But it was lucky that Trump wasn't in office when they were happening. But yeah, he's coming back. And like I've been saying, he's got a vendetta. Unless he can, change things, he's only got one more term. So I don't know why he wouldn't go for broke. And the people that he's putting in these positions are just as fucking crazy as he is.
Yeah.
And so it's
more so.
Yeah. So it's very much like it's a waiting game. I mean, we have an art show planned for right after the inauguration, and I mean, we're planning on going full tilt with it. But it'll be interesting to see, like,
when is the art show, and can we talk about it?
Yeah, the art show is on February 7th in Las Vegas at this gallery called Recycled Propaganda, which is a great space. And it'll be a smaller version of the big retrospective that we just did in LA at Super Chief. But it'll have all of our art, physical pieces, films, and then we're programming for like 2 months. So we've got all kinds of cool stuff planned.
This might be a stupid question, but like, so the Super Chief one obviously happened already, but the other one is going to be during the Trump administration, round 2. Are you worried in a sense? And also, like, I'm sure it'll be heightened, like, I don't know what's the right word, like spies or like fucking, I don't know. Like, it seems like you might want to be a little bit more cautious.
Sure,
but
we've kind of already done it. like so much, so the work that we're displaying is stuff that's been out, so the artwork itself, they've known about it for years. So if we pull out his head that was used as a soccer ball, this isn't news to anybody. I mean, TMZ just covered it again when we were kicking it around in the gallery in Los Angeles. So if it happens to be kicked around
there,
I mean, we did it in 2020 when he was still president, and it's like, so I guess in that sense, I'm not super concerned about it, but the one thing that we have to keep in mind going into this is just people coming into the gallery with violent intentions. That's always, and that's something we talked about with Super Chief, was just, this is, InDecline doesn't really like pull any punches. We're going to have a Klansman hanging from a noose right in front of the gallery. We're going to have the president's head that, I mean, there's all kinds of things in there that there's no mistaking.
Is there a naked Trump?
There's a naked Trump. There's,
so was there, I mean, also Los Angeles is a lot different than Las Vegas. So like, did you have any issues in LA?
No, there were some Trump supporters that came into the gallery, and they didn't come in there to really cause shit. I think they were just kind of trolling. They brought a flag in, they kind of made a lap, and they took some photos with the statue.
Oh, really?
I wasn't personally there, but Bill, the gallery owner, said that they were super, they didn't really seem to be there to like fuck shit up. They just thought it was funny. They talked a little shit, and then they left and took some photos. And so, and Vegas it's a little bit of a different beast, but I mean, I think about
it's open carry there too.
No.
I thought Nevada was open carry.
No,
I don't think so.
No.
I don't know. It seems
but
like
I mean, LA is not far. I mean, you figure like
6-hour drive.
Orange County and like some of the other areas in Los Angeles. Like to me, those are more problematic than Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of fucking white supremacists. I mean, I don't know.
Riverside, Moreno Valley.
Exactly, and that's a quick drive.
Wait, what did you call it? The curtain?
The Iron Curtain?
The Iron Curtain.
Yeah, OC.
Yeah.
I mean, after George Floyd, Vegas had some pretty sizable protests, and I remember seeing people driving up from California to disrupt those. Like, they didn't mind making that drive, so it is what it is. I mean, we what are you going to do? Not do the show?
They have a good buffet after you.
Yeah, we are steps from the Four Queens.
Yeah, so it's like...
Yeah, but...
Free
steak
lobster. And eggs.
Yeah.
If you're going to drive all the way out there and do a little protesting, get a little bit...
But yeah, this is different for us because for the longest time, we never did anything we never had any public-facing anything. I think the most public, and even still, I wasn't there, but we'd have like a merch booth at Punk Rock Bowling or something like that. It wasn't like we were all sitting there like this. We just had some homies that weren't affiliated with any of the shenanigans selling T-shirts and shit. But the art shows were weird. We did a reading at City Lights in San Francisco of our new book, and screenings at movie theaters and working with Winston Smith and his gallery. So like the whole gallery thing is it's unnerving. It's a cool next chapter, and it's awesome being able to like stand in a room with 1,000 people in LA and like actually watch people interact and like look at your shit. Like we never get that. It's middle of the night, you put it up, you fuck off, and then you don't go near it again because you just robbed this bank. You're not going to go back, and then you can maybe see the news the next day, but there's really, in all these years, there's never been a chance for us to see people kind of like walk up to something and be like, oh fuck, and
which is really funny because then there's like the narcissistic side of like vandalism. Like our friends at the Satanic Temple, like someone tried to set it on fire, and the guy like cut out and went around the block and came back to see it, and then they're just like on the video footage like, oh, there's the guy who got arrested, but like he couldn't resist. He had to see his like work,
and now he's in prison. That's a whole tactic that can be really fun, and we've done that.
Seeing your own shit?
Well, we're just being like, I'll give you an example. We hung this huge banner on this massive Jesus in Arkansas.
Oh, it's great.
God bless abortion, right? And some of us have significant amount of tattoos and have a certain look, and when you're in the deep south, you can't really go hang out at a Jesus theme park and not have people be like, okay, what are you fucking doing here? But we had a friend that traveled with us really specifically for the purpose of just to look like an innocent white tourist. And he threw a little DSLR on his shoulder, and he was up on that mountain at the butt crack of dawn when people were hiking, and that banner was there. And just having these real casual conversations with people, and the content that he got, because he was kind of rolling. I mean, there was these like full on good old boys like, oh, I'll fucking tell you what, they got a crossbow and they shot that fucker up there, and like all the theories of how
Oh
the
yeah,
manner-
yeah.
you know, and it was priceless. So we've done like we've put game cameras up, and we've done like whatever we can in the past. But yeah, it's sort of, to your point. I mean, as most graffiti writers will tell you, it is like it's almost impossible not to like go back that next day. So,
but I think there's like
they go back. I mean, I know a lot of graffiti writers go back, get the fucking flicks.
to get the flips.
Yeah. There was the thing that Steve O did with SeaWorld. That was great. And I actually saw him fucking the sign up, but I didn't think it was Steve O, obviously, because it wasn't public yet. But I like how they did it. And then he came out and said, I did it. And like that's like a double publicity, because you can just pay the fine and fucking
Steve O can pay the fine.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
We can't.
But I think it was cool. Like I respect what he did, and I think it was cool. And then I like that he also was just like, I'm gonna go ahead and fucking rat myself out for like that extra step of publicity.
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing.
You know, that is the pure definition of a jackass.
True. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, to do it and then just go, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
Just troll.
I mean, that's a sort of a silly pathway to. I mean,
really,
that's a short path. You know, if you want to be long-term hijinks guy, you don't really want to go that route.
But when you're like of that, like he can go that route. Most of us can't.
Celebrity knucklehead.
Yeah, I wish there were more of those though.
Yeah, I mean the Andy Kaufmans and there's
the best.
We're missing a lot of those for sure. There's some, you know, but I think like if Eric Andre were to go a little more political, you know, I mean he could be someone that would really like kind of fill that void.
Yeah,
just because his
or Sacha Baron Cohen or something.
And he has.
Yeah.
I mean that last show he did was great.
You have to have a clean background though,
because once you're noticed, you can't.
Yeah. Well, you have to clean background because they're going to dig up dirt on you to basically cancel you, and then just annihilate you in the press.
Yeah.
And just go, well, this guy's like, look, you know, he does this over here or that, you know, and then that's it. So then most people don't want to take that chance.
But like, you know, Eric Andre or Sacha Baron Cohen, like, you know them now. Like if you're, you know, like most people that there would be pranking and be like, you're the guy.
Yeah, like Tom Green couldn't do that after a couple years, and it was the same thing. I mean, that's really the second part of the whole anonymity thing that we really love is obviously we do it for safety reasons. But what's great is there's really there's no guy, there's no Bam Margera, there's no Johnny Knoxville, there's no hierarchy, there's no face to it. It's just sort of this like gang of friends that builds and shrinks as we need it to be. It depends on the city and the mission. I mean, it could be 5 people, it could be 50.
So what about some of the people that maybe you've associated with, like even how you said you had a merch table at Punk Rock Bowling? That seems like having affiliates like that entity maybe could be troublesome in some way. And also my other question was, where do the financial, like where do those funds go, and how are those not traced or tracked to somebody?
I mean, obviously we have a bank account, you know, I mean, you have to, like, we're not registered as a 501(c) or anything like that. But I mean, there's we've got people that are attached to the things that matter that are as clean as you could ever. I mean, it's airtight there.
Like maybe, well, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without getting into it, but but yeah, I mean, there's certain things you just have to be careful of. We did a project. We lost our PayPal account actually over this one, but there were all these billboards that went up after October 7th, and they were just like total pro-Israel Zionist shit, like all over the country. And we were cutting them down and putting these respect existence stencils on them and selling them.
Oh, and raising money.
Yeah, basically, like, here's this liberated billboard, here's this stencil, and for $50, we'll send all the proceeds to the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund. And it was like $10,000+ in 48 hours.
Yeah.
But it was so high. I mean, it was like it went. Our PayPal was gone immediately. Like they shut us right the fuck down. So sometimes.
Do all those funds just go back to the people?
So no, what happened was PayPal froze. We paid the donations out of our end. PayPal froze the money, sent us a message, and was like, 4 months from now, we're going to contact you about, you know, how to get these funds. And they basically just held on to it. And then one day we got a message that was like, hey, how do you want this money? And they sent it to us. So we got it. But they shut us down. And I don't know if it was like an investigation phase or what the deal was, but it was pretty cut and dry. They just said, like, you're locked out. You can't do shit. You can't transfer it. You can't operate. You're done. You'll hear from us in 4 months. And it was like almost to the day, we just got a message that said funds available, and it was all the money. Just put it right into our account.
And then
Huh, no. Surprisingly.
4 months interest.
Yeah, exactly.
So you paid the money out, and then can you still use the PayPal again?
No, PayPal's done.
That's just
that
done.
was it. That was the last transaction. Was we got our money. So we had to, figure out. But it's worth it. You know what I mean? It's just like there's so many different things you can.
That's in my mind. I'm always thinking of like the logistical things, like this could be fucked up, that could be fucked up, and I have a bunch of questions, but I don't want to ask them because I feel like maybe that would be giving away some stuff that it doesn't even really matter.
Sure.
But I was like wondering with like because not that punk rock bowling would. I played there once with one of my bands, but like usually punk rock is it's a questionable genre in itself.
Sure.
I think.
Sure.
In many respects, but like I just was like the association with a thing like that seems like they could be, oh my gosh, maybe I don't want to associate with that. Me, I'm like, oh, let's fucking do this, and like want to get like kind of up close to that line.
Yeah, I mean the Stearns have been supportive of us for a very long time.
So are they the heads of it?
Mark and Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was the other guy, the fat.
They're Canadian,
fat
so.
guy.
Well, Mike's a partner in it.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I don't know if he still is, but yeah, I've dealt with the Stearns for years. They've been nothing but great and supportive, but to that end, I mean, the amount of opportunities that we've had pulled out from under us, they're in the hundreds. You know what I mean? Just if it isn't something like the current situation where Trump's president, we have artwork that is the artwork we've done and scares people. It's just the whole, like, you could just go onto our website, pick something, pick the t-shirt that says shoot cops, pick the blasphemous shit with relation to reproductive rights.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a million things that can rub someone the wrong way, and it sucks because there's record labels and all kinds of opportunities where some of us make money on the side or make money in general, that will kind of make that connection and just be like, well, fuck, man, we can't do this. So, or they find out later and it's super awkward. Like after we've already done the transaction, someone will call and be like, yeah, we didn't really look deep.
Yeah.
We didn't realize that, we're doing all that. And so it can be pretty funny. But
That's also on them though, like
100%. Yeah. I mean, we're not going to show up to meetings looking like this. It's just like everything's out there. You can go to the website. I mean, we're not going to mince words. We'll tell you how we feel. And there's a certain amount of it's liberating to just to not really be beholden to anything and say we're a creative entity. We have feelings and a conscience, and there's certain things that we like to do. We like to stir shit up. So if you want to fuck with us, that's cool. And that mutually advantageous relationship has been something that we've used particularly with music videos for a really long time for a lot of bands, because, people who are politically minded can connect with us and say, hey, y'all go do your thing and we'll make the music and this will be great. And there's this is separation, that you can.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question.
Yeah.
Personally, because we're musicians, but also I think a lot of music minded people pay attention to this podcast. So can bands, so what would you do? Someone be like, here's our song, and you would make a video out of it?
Yeah, we've done it. We've done everything from narrative based videos, or we've just straight up been you tell us whatever the budget you have is, and we'll just come back with some shit. We're not going to tell you what we're going to do. We're not. So there's plausible deniability, but we'll let you know that it's probably going to make the news, and then it'll be your
holy shit
song will be the soundtrack to it. And yeah, I mean,
because there are some stuff where I'm like, what band is this? How did this get in there? And it looks less like a music video and more like a I don't know what the right word is.
A sizzle reel, or I guess.
Well, no, this is what you guys did. You did this thing.
Yeah.
And the song is this.
Like a soundtrack.
Whoever.
To,
whatever punk band or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most of our stuff on our website, that's exactly what it is. It'll just be some big project, and we'll just score it with something.
Well, that's great, because then it can go because for me, I feel let's say you picked our band and you used our band in a thing, and I'm like, that I feel like it's kind of cooler than us playing in a music video. It'd be hey, we associate, or we fuck with these people. These are our homies, and they did this thing, and we're in support of this.
Yeah.
And here's our music as the soundtrack. That's kind of more righteous than band playing or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's worked out. I mean, we're all the way down to it could just be a single night Billboard Liberation, or just a whole weekend of terror. That's probably the wrong word.
No, that's a good word.
It's really no different than the soundtrack to a skateboard video,
of course,
or surf. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, just puts it out of context of like, here's the band trying to produce their thing and basically associates it with like, hey, these guys know this and it goes together well.
Especially if like the artist is into it. Because I mean, like Jim Greco is cool and Baker was cool, but like they took a Locust song and used a Locust song and Baker 2G, and everyone was like, yo, all these skater kids were showing up to our shows, and we're like, what the fuck, this is cool. We would have just liked to have known, and also like maybe a free copy of the cassette or the VHS would have been nice.
Sure.
But I was like, oh, that's sick. Like, that's cool.
Know?
No, we had no idea. But it was
I
just
know
like
who
in
they're
his
talking
segment, but I don't think they paid for that shit. But I was like, damn, this is
I was
like-
in that skate video too.
skateboarding?
In Baker 2G.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you skated.
No, I did music for it.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah,
I got
well, they
paid.
used- yeah, we didn't get paid. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
whatever.
it's always lame, regardless of how it's done. If artists or people are taking other people's stuff without telling them, it's like just
Well, I
man
was-
up and tell them up front, like, hey, we want your song rules. We want to use
Yeah.
it. Are you guys cool with this? We don't have any money. We can give you some shirts or
Yeah.
video or
We
whatever.
didn't get
you know?
that.
I mean, yeah, but
But I mean, Jim's cool or whatever, and like I think that's great. And I was glad that it was like the punk-ish guy that was like, you know, repping us. Like that was rad. But
it wasn't a soundtrack.
It would have
for
just
a
been nice
Tesla
to be like,
commercial.
hey, we're into this together, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
100%. Well, we have some friends in this band, Co-Defendants, and Chesky, who raps in that group, just, I think a week ago, sent me a link to Russell Brandt's Instagram, and he was partying at Mar-a-Lago with Tucker Carlson, all of those.
Oh, yeah.
Put a Co-Defendant song on the Instagram reel. And Chesky's just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, no.
Whoa.
And it's amazing that he even, that band's even on the radar, you know?
Wait, so you can, though, if it's distributed by whatever the band's distributor is, you can access that track and the band will get paid like
I don't,
0.2
yeah, probably a
percent
couple cents or whatever.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
But yeah, they so that's just a perfect example of like an egregious, you know,
stepping over the line.
line step. for
Well, it'd be
sure.
one thing if like Russell Brand was like releasing some kind of thing or using it like at one of his events. That's illegal, or you have to pay for that, I guess.
Yeah, it
you
wasn't
know?
a question. Yeah, they weren't tripping on the
Yeah,
legality. They were
yeah.
just saying you just made this a soundtrack to your
like
party at Mar-a-Lago.
wrong side
Dude,
of the
yeah, not even
tracks.
close.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. There's really no mistaking InDecline's work with that kind of shit. But it's been funny over the years to like look at the influence it's had on like John Bon Jovi did this Have a Nice Day video, and they had like people tagging on businessmen and like doing all this street. I mean, right in the you know the height of like our videos in the early 2000s, and we're like, well, we know where that came from.
Yeah.
You know, climbing around on billboards and shit.
But it is kind of like a cool way to figure out like which artists are on what side of the spectrum, I guess.
Yeah, it's been really interesting because, again, like we don't really have to worry about much. It's outside of staying out of jail. You know, we don't have to have awkward conversations with investors or anybody. You know, so there's a lot more freedom and autonomy with just any of our collaborative efforts. But you know, I can't get into some of these bands for legal, but it's just like we'll work with some pretty big bands, but you got the marketing team, you got the label reps, you got the fucking everybody on these emails. It's like 34 people CC'd, and you're just like, okay, well, you guys said you wanted to do something in the wake of the George Floyd killing that addresses, you know, fucking racism and the police, and you're working with us, so you know it's not going to be a bunch of puffy paint on signs in front of a Michaels. Like, what the fuck? And, and you just see really quickly like who's down to say it, you know, as clear as possible, and who comes back and is just like and just sanitizes it to the point where we have a John Bon Jovi music video. So
I guess that might depend on the label or who's like really in charge of the music.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of irony about this is, you know, we aspire to work with the people that inspire us.
Of course.
You know, like, I mean, there's all kinds of people that we'd love to work with, but it's like the higher you climb that ladder, the more bullshit there inevitably is. And I mean, that's what really has always drawn us to the work you've done. You know, there's just so many people we've like seen and followed over the years, and it just seems to just like, y'all do whatever the fuck you're going to do.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it works. And that's how we've been.
Yeah.
You know, take it or leave it. There's really no stopping us. Like, we're going to do something. And it's, you know, we can't really sit there for hours and hours, especially these days with like how sensitive people can be about certain things. I mean, you'll spend a lifetime sitting in a room on the right title for something and the right way of doing it. And I mean, the naked Trump statue, for as viral as it was, I mean, we got accused of
like fat
body
shaming,
shaming, which was really fucking funny to me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if you strip this guy down,
that's what he looks like.
right? But
It's a long way around to that.
yeah, but there was also trans activists coming after
Yeah.
us for like, giving him that like small dick, and they were saying, oh, this is like.
Well, they should have gave him a pussy, right?
I don't fucking know, and we just
Should have
sat there,
said
it's
it was
like,
just a really big clit.
right. Well, we didn't. And you just get to a point where you're like, do you really think we sat in a room and we're like, how can we piss the trans community off? with
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
Yeah.
But
So,
I mean, that's another thing too. Is like I feel like the left is gonna fuck itself over. It's constantly dividing into like all these little
Yeah.
fractions, and they all fight each other and
Yeah.
not the fucking obvious enemy, which is like really frustrating and it's just such a pain in the ass.
the left is like Olympian level infighting. Like the infighting is just like fucking crazy.
Yeah,
And yeah,
the right loves it.
loves it. Eats
So
it
the
up.
right plans a whole generation ahead. They're like 25 years ahead. Like this plan that they have was already planned 25 years ago. They're just implementing it now. Where, everyone, Democrats or the left are just reactionary to the moment. And they don't focus enough to just work together and have a plan on their own and just go forward with it. They're always reactionary, which always leaves them a step behind.
Yes,
And
right.
then eventually you are going to get stepped over, and that is unfortunate, but that is kind of
That's
the
what they say
path.
about like the Occupy movement and stuff was like, or the Occupy Wall Street stuff was like, there was no actual like, not that there needed to be a leader, but there was no point to it. They were just like, we're not trying to achieve this thing, and that was the problem. That everyone was just like, ugh, and like worried, like, can everybody have a safe space to speak? It's like, dude, everyone's dying right now. You need to fucking make a move.
I went there. I spent a few nights in Zuccotti Park. I mean, I was present for a handful of the meetings and the marches, and I was embarrassed more so than I was inspired. With the. I mean, part of it was.
Well, maybe that embarrassment made the inspiring thing happen in a way with maybe like your activism with
Sure.
InDecline. Like, let's just do the thing.
Yeah, I mean that's really it, and that's sort of like the biggest motivator and inspirational thing you can tell anybody is like you can sit around and talk about shit all the time. I do it all the time with projects where I'll get to thinking about like money and logistics and things like that, and then I'm just like, well, shit, I could have just done this. Fucking, you know what I mean? What does it matter?
Yeah.
And so many of the people that I grew up admiring, like Werner Herzog was like, still is like one of my biggest heroes, just for the fact that he just does his shit his way, and he's like the most punk motherfucker when it comes to like filmmaking and just like these brazen plans. And yeah, there's just something to be said. Sometimes the movies aren't even that great, but it's just like, man, he did it, and he's a good example of someone that like, should make it very clear that you don't always have to wait for the weather to be perfect. Like you could just get together with your friends. I mean, people talk about this a million different ways with music and bands and shit, but it's no different with activism. Don't hurt somebody. You can hurt their feelings, but like, don't go out and fucking commit senseless violence. But like, as long as you're safe and you take a minute to think it through, like if more people just kind of like stop sitting around talking about shit, we'd live in a different world.
I think that's in the documentary that you guys put out. You guys say that, like, don't hurt people and just do the thing. And then you talked about humor being a very important part, which I think is the only way to get like a political message across is if you can't make a fucking joke about it. But then like there is the like people on the left who are very sensitive and they're like, well, that joke is at so and so's expense, and it's like with the naked Trump statue, I thought it was like a pretty righteous thing, and I don't care that like someone might be upset that he's got unfavorable body structure, whatever. There's a lot to it, and the we got to go for the point is to fucking bring that guy down, or to bum him out, or to make him react, or whatever, make him fuck up, And if you're a person that has maybe a similar body style, and you're like, oh, I feel like you guys are making fun of me. It's like I don't know, like you're not gonna make it in this world. It's a fucking mean world. Like just say fuck it and move on and do something else, or do something on your own. to help
Also.
the people's bodies and like not
Sure.
shit on these
Well,
other
when
people.
all bets are off when you treat women the way he treats women. So it's like you're an asshole and talk shit about women the way he does in public. It's like, fuck, a picture of you naked in public? Who gives a fuck? Like, that's what you get. Like,
But it wasn't like the message of InDecline was like, you're fucking gross.
Right,
it was
right,
just like,
but I
here's
mean-
the naked guy
Well, but I'm
exposed.
talking about the people that criticize it and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's like, really, this is a guy that goes around.
Oh, you're talking about the right that are criticizing it? Oh.
anybody that like
Anybody.
that says like, well, that's like totally you can't do that. The guy's talking about grabbing women,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know he's doing all sorts of shady stuff. Like, he sucks.
You're not going to please everybody, and I mean that holds true with so many different mediums and practices. The more radical you are, the more chances you take with this kind of shit. But that's the payoff. It's like there's so many projects where I remember the exact moment where it either came to us or when we were sitting in a room and it clicked. Where you're kind of like you've got the pieces of it and you're like, oh my god, okay, yeah, Capitol, the Confederacy, Ku Klux Klans, like all the things come together, and you're like, that's for sure going to be a fucking insane situation if we pull it off. And to take that moment and then immediately pause it and put it on hold to start worrying about like all
the
that
sensitivity factors.
Yeah, I mean, like. It's
What
not
would the
just-
Ku Klux Klan like? With it, clowns will be sad.
the mime union really got mad about that.
No, I'm not even joking. We got fucking DMs about that from people who are clowns. I swear to you.
That's
Leave clowns out of it. Yeah,
What
people who are like on some, this is my shit, there's a community of people, and you just denigrated my community.
Not the insane clown posse, though, right?
No, Bobcat Goldthwait. Bobcat was mad.
Are you serious? No. Oh, I feel like ICP would probably be like psyched on that shit.
Fuck yeah.
They're kind of like, they kind of seem like pretty.
Yeah, but they took clowning to a whole nother level.
know.
Extreme clowning. They're extreme clowning,
They're the X Games of clowns.
You have your rodeo clowns, your mimes, but the extreme clowning is a whole nother ball game,
It really is.
But yeah, that's a perfect example right there is, if you can get hammered by the clown community for something like that, it just goes to show like there's nothing that we can do, and I don't think there's anything we've ever done that hasn't come with like detraction from it or people being pissed off on the left. We're supposed to be on the same team and all that. It's just like, but it's never, it's clearly never slowed us down. And we'll be the first to admit too, like there's been a few times where it's like, oh fuck, we didn't realize a couple things, and like we'll make a statement, and we're like really good. I mean, we all grew up doing stupid shit.
Can you don't have to, but can you give me an example of a thing that you were just like, oh, whoops.
Oh yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. We had a banner that said, "Thou shall aid and abet abortion," and it was huge. And for months we were trying to rig it on these like 100-foot crucifixes in the Deep South. And we were using drones and all kinds of crazy shit. And it was extremely difficult. And the first round of this project, the banner that we had donated to us was like way too heavy. So we couldn't get it up and over this cross. And there was an abandoned tower, this huge abandoned structure in Memphis, Tennessee, that was really just a place that people tagged up. There was all kinds of notable graffiti writers in there, and when we were traveling through Memphis, someone put us onto it, and it was a place that you could go and you could paint, and we also ride freight trains, and you could hop out from that spot. And so we'd probably been there a half a dozen times, never seen a single person. Wide open fence up this sort of like tree covered alley thing, and no signs, no nothing. So we decide one night to drop the banner off of this structure because we could get to the top and we could string it up and make it look dope. And
Can you see it? Like,
oh yeah, it's like a great busy road, and it was like, hey, fuck it, we're not going to be able to get this where we want it. Some of the other options just aren't going to work. We could walk right into this place and have this thing dangling in an hour, and it's exactly what we did. We got it up. It looked fucking beautiful. The news was covering it the next day, and then out of nowhere, we get this comment or a DM or something from this group that we had never heard of, who owned the building, and they're it was an art gallery, black owned art gallery, and this sort of like community of people who had purchased this building, and they were going, I guess their plans were to renovate it or something. I mean, this was years ago, it hasn't been touched, but they were basically like, hey, you know, it was like a black activist collective, and they came at us pretty heavy. I mean, we got like rocked online for 24 hours for being, you know, racist, because in the video we posted, you could see like that it was a white boy carrying this thing up there, and it was this whole thing. We were kind of trying to talk to them on the side, like, hey, you know, you got to look at it from our perspective. We're graffiti writers. Like, this thing's just been like a playground for graffiti writers. We had no clue who owned this thing.
Yeah.
You know, we're so sorry. You know, we had to go up there. We had to take it down. So they were mad that we that we basically used their building as a canvas for this message, and rightfully so. The point they were trying to make was like, we're a nonprofit. Like, we can't hang shit like that off our building. And it's like, right, well, if we had known you owned it, we obviously wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And that was a perfect example where we sat in this coffee shop, I'll never forget, and we were like trying to do the research, and it was so difficult to figure out that they owned it. You know?
Yeah.
It was just one of those, like, you wouldn't think to do it, and then even when you tried to figure it out, it wasn't there, and you had to like dig through Instagram and shit to be like, oh, these people actually bought the building. But yeah, that
was there ever like an agreement? Not an agreement, but were they ever like, okay, or were they still like just fuck you?
No, they took it down, and we scheduled a call, and it was like very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we just basically, we just apologized and said, hey, this is our background.
Yeah.
You know, so just understand, like, I'm sure, as you know, that, you know, this place is a haven for graffiti writers, and
But you scheduled a call. What was the call? Like,
the call was basically like,
and was there anything that came from that? Like,
we wanted to issue a statement and apologize publicly, but prior to doing that, we wanted to just apologize to them personally.
Yeah.
And we weren't in Memphis at the time, so we just we got on a call with the owner of the gallery, and we just basically said, you know, we obviously would never have done this. Like, look at our work.
So,
you know?
but did the owner accept the apology?
Fuck no. Fuck no. Yeah, that's why I said it was uncomfortable, because it was just like, it was very.
I feel like you just need to, not you, but like the proverbial you needs to just be like, you know what, like, yeah, you didn't know, and like we're gonna move on.
Got it. Well, that's kind of what we did. Yeah, it was just like, we're not gonna sit here.
We're
and
not
like,
Steve-O.
Yeah.
If we all were, it'd be so great.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you know, you're like, on one hand, you're like, fuck, this is right after they had overturned Roe v. Wade.
Well,
so we're just like, shouldn't we be hanging these off everything?
Everywhere.
Shouldn't fucking, you know, and again, like, I would never sit here as like a white dude and be like, shouldn't, you know, like, your community be like really fucking terrified right now? You know, you live in the deep South. Like, if you're a woman and you're black, and you fucking live in Mississippi.
But maybe they were religious and pro anti-choice.
I think it was money. I think their concern was that because they were
trying to sell
on the
it.
level 501(c), that they're like, we can't, there's just certain lines we don't want to cross because we want to protect our thing, which that was the part I was like, hey, I get that shit. And obviously, if we had known that, we wouldn't have deliberately put your organization in the crosshairs, because you already are in the crosshairs, you know? But anyway.
That is an interesting thing, because the Locusts used to tour with Planned Parenthood, and we would get a lot of problems, especially in Texas. If you had Planned Parenthood would come out regionally and table, and it was great to have them present at shows, especially for younger people. But in Texas, you couldn't have them at your venue, because the venue could get like their lease revoked just for having them be in your venue. So we were just like, well, fuck that. And so we were like trying to like grab a bunch of the literature and stuff and like set it up ourselves. And they're like, dude, you cannot do this. And at first we thought like, why are you guys being chicken shits? You know, but then you have to think like, I don't want to fuck these venues over that like cater to our kind of music or whatever it is. So I do see what they're saying, but I feel like at some point you guys have to be like, I get it.
Yeah, there's certain collaborations that are just not meant to be, you know. And I mean, when you're sort of exclusively, if you look at our work as a whole, a very small percentage of it was done with permission, and a very small percentage of it is legal.
Yeah.
And so you automatically put yourself just like out of commission with working with like a Planned Parent. You know what I mean? There's just places that are like, yeah, you can go do your thing, but like.
Oh, you couldn't work with Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, they're not going to show that support.
Yeah.
Even though
I mean, maybe secretly, but like you can't be like Planned Parenthood support, you know.
Like there's no way.
Funded by Planned Parenthood.
Which, like, I think, you know, Planned Parenthood's great. But like, I would prefer the repurposed billboards of InDecline
Sure.
that are in that realm. I feel like it's more impactful.
Yeah, it also just, like anything else, it's a game of tug of war, and everyone's got to be able to put their hands on the rope, and there's just enough room for Planned Parenthood as there are billboard vandals and everyone else. And so it's, like everyone has their own tactics, and we don't pretend that what we're doing, we're clowns, like we don't sit here and act like this is the cure-all. But, growing up the way we did.
Wait, you're clowns, so when you hang yourselves, it's fine.
Exactly. it's ironic. Okay. But yeah, we have this, you get to a point in your life where you realize you're good at something, and then you just stick with it. And at a very young age, we were like, hey, we're really good at kind of like lurking around and climbing shit. Like there's all these little things that you grow out of skateboarding, you grow out of maybe music or whatever, but there was a certain thing that all of us retained that we just got really good at. And the more educated we became, the more sort of like potent and satirical and punchy the work became. And that's something that you can do well into old age, And so it's been like our fine wine, we just sort of like every year we look back on the work, we're like, damn, this is just getting better and better and better, like, well, we can still climb shit and run. But yeah, it's a good place to be, but it makes it difficult when you want to bring in a public-facing entity or something.
Yeah,
we never know. The future, Planned Parenthood might hire you to do billboards. It might be amazing.
I'm desperate.
Yeah, it might get that crazy.
Yeah, we'll see.
We're moving in 2025.
Yeah, next
bro.
month. Yeah.
I mean, you would assume that like all bets are off at this point. I mean, like fucking Matt Gaetz just got like, I think they like just said that he definitely raped, or no, they said it wasn't Matt Gaetz. I mean, he did, but they said like Trump did too with Epstein. Anyhow, but like everyone's just like whatever, and it's like I feel at that point, like when these fucking politicians are like raping or having sex with underage women, like I think Planned Parenthood should be able to team up with InDecline.
Yeah,
not just women. It's just
the issue
got
is
to open
always,
up the
it's
floodgates because we don't, the Diddy thing's gonna open it up pretty soon. So I mean, we can't just say raping women and it's all sexes are basically possibly in this whole world. So
money is a problem, and we're very happy to keep a very manageable amount in our account, and we've never had access to more than that. And when we get low, we go do some crazy shit and we raise some, but any of those groups like Planned Parenthood or, PETA, like they've got so much money and you're not going to risk that. They're shareholders. There's people that are fucking, on salary at those places.
Like PETA's a good example because I feel like they do go up and across that line where you're just like, what the fuck? Like, I'm offended now. And like, like I mean, I'm a supporter of PETA, but I see why people be like, fuck that organization, So I wonder like how they manage that, or like Banksy, like how like Banksy is like now you can buy his shit at Target or whatever, like it just seems like at some point where does that shift happen, and then maybe the sort of like the validity of what the I don't want to say product, but the artistic goal, maybe it gets.
Well, my understanding with Banksy is that because he is who he is, all his stuff is just, I mean, you go into any like head shop and they're going to have a Banksy coffee mug. And all that. I mean, that's not his shit.
Yeah.
He's not, there's so many illicit Banksy art shows all over the country, so most of that Urban Outfitter shit is not, but with like a PETA, I think, I mean, I don't know. It's about hearts and minds. Banksy, he's kind of his own monster. That dude, like the amount of money he makes selling art, and like, I just feel like he's one of those prime examples, and there's not many of them that can just kind of do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. He doesn't need to like spring into action when Trump gets reelected, like you're lucky to see if he pops up with 25 animal related pieces in, some obscure town in the UK. I mean, that's just like where he's at right now. And again, money, dude's got a fuck ton of it, and whatever his system is impressive. I mean, not every artist can afford a fucking theme park. But yeah, I'll always kind of go back to just, I know I've lived two lives, in relation to like my career in both activism and then maybe art and my like commercial, like my work life. And, I've worked with, massive productions and all kinds of things. And I mean, 10 times out of 10, I'll always go back to the, sort of like low budget. We're in it for the passion, just because, I don't know. If I had a gun to my head and I was forced to pick like the top 5 projects I was ever a part of that involved a collaboration, it would be something that was probably made for $250 every time.
Home Culture is a Ruinous Media podcast proudly sponsored by Earthquaker Devices, Heartwork Coffee, Diodario, Kindred, Smashed Plastic Record Pressing, and San Diego Food Shed.
Planet B.